as an industry, digital marketing, my understanding is, I mean, email was the early days, and then of course, we know it kind of went through a lot of transformation and is now there's a lot to do with social media and content. But given your path and how long you've been at it, you rode that entire wave of the entire industry kind of shifting and changing. Um, I'd love to hear about that a little bit. About did you know it was changing? Was that also organic? How did you deal with going from email to what a kind of full service digital marketing is today?
Yeah, no, that hopefully I won't take too long to answer the question, but the email piece, as you talked about, there when we first started in 2002, there was a certain kind of magic to marketers being able to see, oh my gosh, our consumers are reading it for this long, they're clicking on it, they're buying, these folks are dropping out. Like the ability to track everything was just totally magical. And then it became more mainstream, and we were fortunate to be this kind of this hybrid between white labeling the software that I told you about, this Cooler Email software program, and also being a full service email marketing agency in the early days. And so we grew really fast because a lot of companies didn't have in-house resources to get those campaigns out. They didn't know the strategies or have the creative folks to do it. And so that added to a lot of growth. And then that naturally grew into pointing an email campaign to microsites that we were already set up from earlier in my construction website days, to have some folks that knew how to build websites and things like that. And so really what happened that was a little kind of like a very traumatic experience, I guess, is I had a lot of I kind of thought like, oh, we've grown so fast. We were an Inc. 500 fastest growing company in the country, and gosh, we can do anything in a way that there was almost too much ego in it. And so I had this notion to because we were reselling someone else's software and putting our own logo on it, we didn't have any control of that experience. And so we tried to become a software company in 2008 to 2010, and not only in the email space, but also in the social media and mobile marketing messaging side of things. Really tried to bite off way more than we could chew. And also going from an agency to a software company is incredibly hard. Even when you know how expensive it is and how hard it's going to be, it's still twice as hard as you think. Long story short, lost $1.5 million over that 3-year period. Almost went bankrupt, like had tasted metal in the back of my throat, and which is the last sign you have before having a heart attack. And we went in a 6-month period after we pulled the plug on that. We went from 41 employees to having 38 of those employees leaving because of what a kind of a toxic culture it created of having to have multiple rounds of layoffs and things like that. So it was incredibly painful. I think, to answer your question, there was a natural progression towards growing into more things than email through the software experience, as well as through what our clients needed even before that. And then we went back to our roots as an agency, and we rehired a bit in that process. And so we got down to about 15 employees, and that was literally 7 years ago, and then landed Nike as a client, and then Adobe and several others came several years after that. And so we've been on a really, like I said, a very intentional growth journey, but it's also, we've been really intentional about our culture because we've gone from 15 employees to 135. And when you do that, a lot of times it's really hard to keep culture from getting heavily diluted. So that is probably what I'm most proud of where we are right now. Is a really inclusive culture that feels feels like family and feels like everybody has each other's backs. Especially inspiring during this whole work from home, or what we at Thesis like to call is lead from home. When it's, it's hard to not have your mental health affected by being cooped up in the house and all the things. And it's just been really inspiring to see how our employees have supported one another and really stepped in. So it's been great.